Hey there, everyone. I hope you've got a good start on opening a company between your research to at least give you a foundation of what would be great things to have and not have in the design of your new business. I hope you also have got at least an idea of putting all of it together on what type of business you want. And I mean that between industry, way to be run, the form of business, and everything else. And I hope that you've got at least a good idea to be ready to go to the next step. Um, Here we're going to discuss what to do with the data you found and with the, um, this is an analysis. Is what you're talking about and thinking about doing that would be better, supposedly, than your competition's flaws? We're going to think about that now. Are my strategies actually better? When I found my competition's flaw, did what I thought I would do instead make sense? Have I found a company that uses those better ways, what I think is the better way to go about doing business? And if so, what were their prices? What kind of market were they serving? And how does that compare to where I want my company to be based? What kind of company I want, and the prices I've thought about making for my service or product. Compare them to the businesses that do miraculously well in even the financial industry, even in the financial crisis or in the times of the Great Recessions, and in the good economics times. I want you to look at those. These ideas you have of how to be better at serving the clients or customers, how do they compare? Have I seen any business that has this that did better than the others? Am I taking strategies from the already existing companies that did well in addition to changing what they did that was horrible? How does my company compare? Now, comparing that to that exact same type of company as far as the quality of the service or the what kind of service and all, compare your prices. If you're supposed to be a medium quality of the product or service, but your prices are about the same or higher than the ones that are supposed to be the highest quality, then your prices would be off and people wouldn't be willing to pay it. Your price comparison needs to match your quality of product or service comparison. If you want to be top-notch stuff, you can charge a high price, but you don't want it any higher or much higher than your competition, especially if they are the ones that are barely getting by. In that case, you'd want to have lower prices to be more competitive, where even if you had a high-quality service but you wanted mid-quality prices, you could at least do that your first year and then get those higher, raise the rates to what's about the same with your company being higher quality after you get founded. Because when you first get going, people don't want to pay a lot of money. They're taking a big risk by getting a service from somebody they've never heard of or that does not have a reputation or image or anything of being good or bad quality. So you always want to start with lower prices, relatively a lot lower prices than your equivalent quality providing competition. But if you make your prices too low, they'll wonder if this high quality really is high quality. It could come across as deceiving to them. So you don't want to necessarily be, let's say, charging $10 an hour of tutoring while you're a master degree tutorer, especially if you've been, like me, been in the field for 18 years. People look at that and be like, is it really that great of a tutoring if you've been around that long and you only charge $10 an hour? So that's just an example to consider your quality and the low prices you use in the beginning. Are they rational? If they're too low and they look too perfect and beautiful to the customer, they'll think it's wrong. As we've had a lot of scams going on, I even believe one company that interviewed me was a scam, but they had a building which made it more deceiving, but I didn't believe they were a legitimate company because of how the behavior of the people. But with that, if things seem too great between low prices that the average American can afford, but the highest quality that usually only the rich can get, people will question if you're legitimate and less likely to do business with you. So you need to have it within reason to be lower prices than your direct competition or the ones with the same quality, but not too much lower to be deceiving and for it basically make year one ugly and possibly not even make it past year one. Now, considering all of this, do you really have direct competition now based on the ways that your company's going to be better for the customer than your competition? Is there another company just like it? Like I said, when I started my in-home tutoring company, at least in the Houston, Texas area, as far as I knew at the time, based on my research, there was no in-home tutoring. They were all the places like Sylvan where they tell you where and when to be. So I didn't have direct competition because in that sense, mine focused on convenience with the same quality, but that meant that they were an indirect competition. Yeah, they still tutor, but they don't have even close to the same business model as I do. I kind of started a new trend, and now there's a lot more in-home tutoring companies in Katy and Houston, Texas. And in some cases, I could have patented that and have to be paid for other companies to use that business model. So you can even consider something like that. If it's a relatively new thing, you can consider patenting it. And that way people can't use it, thus you cannot have direct competition. By having less or no competition that's direct, you will be getting majority of the business of people that need that service, that convenience, that whatever you provide, that is how yours is better than the rest. So you want to consider all that, and you want to consider how congested is the market. Like I said, some like being a lawyer or being an accountant are very congested because they're old industries that are necessities. So there's always going to be somebody needing that service. Now, if they get it from you or not is a different question. Not do they need it. But in markets that are more congested, it's harder to win customers when you're a new business, especially if you as the owner don't have much of a reputation because you haven't been much influence in the community already. If you have already been highly influential, like you're a high-up executive that won a high influential leader in the greater Houston area kind of award or something that shows that you're a big influence and have a big impact on the market, then a new company may not be so difficult as long as it's either in low congestion, where there's not many of it, or if it's medium. But in a highly congested industry, then unless you really already have an image and are already high influence in the community, it's going to be very hard to make it. So consider that. And when you consider these things, make the changes to your strategies that you are considering of doing business. Check your policies, create new strategies, new policies, expand in more detail using what we've talked about, questions to ask yourself, things to look at, to consider, and make those changes on your business plan now. This should take you at least an additional 3 weeks to do. Assess everything you found, the way, the price, the methods, the everything of doing business, providing the service, providing the product, running it, like your policies in customer service, your location, everything. Compare it now, what I've questioned you, to what you have in your plan already, and make appropriate changes to make sure that yours will be a success.